Lauren, maybe you should. All right, good evening, everybody. I see people coming in through the waiting room. We're so excited to have everyone join us tonight for this panel. I wanted to walk through some house rules real quick. We are going to mute everybody this evening to allow our panelists the chance to jump in and answer questions as we move through them. But please do feel free to turn your cameras on. We'd love to see your faces. And if you do have any questions or want to get to know each other, definitely utilize that chat function that most of you have come to know over the past 2 days as orientation has done these sessions. Last but not least, we are asking all of our parents to rename themselves. Go ahead and include your full name and your hometown. We're hoping that maybe you can find a couple other friends from your area while you're on this session tonight. Sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties with my PowerPoint. Where's it going? There we go. Okay. Well, on behalf of the Office of Family Engagement, welcome and thank you for being here. This is our first of 2 panels that we're going to be hosting during orientation. This has become a tradition during orientation, so we're really happy to be able to offer it in this new virtual setting. We're also able to engage a lot of our parent volunteers from across the country because of this year, so we're excited to see so many of you come in tonight. And next Tuesday's panel, just for those of you that are familiar with the schedule, will be a very similar setup. The only difference will be that we actually are going to have the perspective of some more non-local to Jacksonville families. So please mark your calendars as well for next Tuesday, the 14th at 6 p.m. I want to open up tonight by introducing just our office. We are the Office of Family Engagement. You might recognize some of our names here. My name is Marianne Jolly, and we also have Lauren Griffith. We are the ones that are on the Facebook group, very active for many of you that are a part of it. But I do just want to call out to write down our contact information, get to know us, even if you just remember tonight, family@ju.edu. Our whole purpose is to create memories and engagement opportunities for your family while your student is here. So get to know us. We look forward to getting to know you, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions about ways to get involved. Next, I just want to draw your attention to ju.edu/family. This is our website. On here, there's a couple important forms, one of the most important one being the family information form. I've seen a lot of them trickle in over the past few months, but please go on there and fill that out. That will also sign you up for our e-newsletters that are sent out monthly. There's also another form down there called Get Involved. This is a way for you to go in and select what different areas you might be interested in getting involved in, whether it's admissions recruiting, or career resources and connecting your current employer with JU to hire JU students. There's a whole variety of ways that you can get involved as a parent. Also on there is our e-newsletter archive. What we do every month is we gather the most important information from every single area. Maybe it'll have some upcoming deadlines that we think are important for parents to know. We will send those out monthly, but again, you do need to fill out the family information form to get signed up for those. Last but certainly not least, tonight we have on our call, we have all members of the President's Parents Council with us. There's a lot of information on the webpage that we've built out over this summer about them. Would love for you to get to know them. If you're interested in getting involved with the council, go ahead and feel free to either email Lauren and I at family@ju.edu, or also you did receive a letter from Lauren and Nancy this summer, and I know that they would be willing to talk to you all about different ways to get involved as well. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and, one last thing, homecoming, sorry. We are still asking families to save the date for homecoming this year. As you all have probably read in the fall plan, we will not be announcing what type of celebration we're having until September, but this is a great way for you to see what all JU has to offer. And we do still have last year's schedule live up on ju.edu/family weekend if you're interested. So now our panel. We're really excited to have 4 families represented with us this evening. I'm going to give each of them the floor to introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about their student, where they're from, and I'm going to go ahead and let Nancy kick it off.
Well, hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Nancy Gilreath. As you can see from the slide, I am one of the co-chairs of the President's Parents Council, and I'm very happy to be here tonight, coming to you from Jacksonville. I grew up in the Northeast, but we've lived down here since 2003, and we absolutely love it and are thrilled to be able to be involved with JU. My student is Emily, and she's class of 21. She is majoring in sociology with a minor in criminal justice. And that's not where she started. And she's found some real passions in her few years here. She started out, she was on the sailing team. She has gravitated, now she's involved with Greek life. And also she is the president of the mock trial team, which has been something that's given her a lot of great opportunities. I'm looking forward to this evening, and hoping to get to know some of you over the next few years. Thanks.
Ashley?
Hello, everybody. So I'm Ashley Justice, and we are from actually St. Augustine, Florida, which is about a 50-minute drive from JU. And our son is Jacob. He is a 2022 graduate, hopefully, fingers crossed. But he is also, he's majoring in accounting with a minor in glass blowing. He picked up an elective last year and absolutely loves it, so changed his public policy to a glass blowing minor. He absolutely is engaged and loves campus. He is up there all the time, and we've been down, we're not originally from here, but came down to Florida about 10 years ago. And he's heavily involved with campus, everything they have to offer. I think he's had his foot in at some point or another, and he's thriving up there, and so we're glad to be part of the panel. This is our third year part of the panel, and love being part of it. So
Thanks. I'm gonna let the Puglisi's go next.
And Terry Puglisi. We're from Pasadena, Maryland. Our daughter Joanna is a rising sophomore. She's a nursing major, and she's also a coxswain on the crew team.
And a psychology minor.
And a psychology minor. So we're very excited to be part of the panel tonight, and hope to get to know everyone throughout the next couple of years.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Sutherland. My daughter is a 23. She was a 22, but now she's a 23. That happens. We are from Hanover, New Hampshire. She is actually, Nancy, I didn't know that the same as Emily. She's a sociology major with a criminal justice minor as well. Path that we didn't think she would take, but she did. And we love being part of the Parents Council, which I know we'll talk about later on in this discussion. It's a great group. And she's also a Gamma Phi Beta sister, which again, Nancy, I don't know if you know that your daughter Emily convinced my very shy daughter to rush, and she loves it. So thank you guys for having me tonight.
All right, so I'm going to stop sharing our screen, and I just want to say thank you again to all of our panelists for being here. We're going to go ahead and jump in with the initial transition. I think that this is something that parents want to hear from other parents about. They've been in your shoes. So I wanted to go ahead and throw the first kind of transition question up to Terry and Mary Jo. I know Joanna was your youngest to leave, so you not only have seen other children off to colleges over the past few years, but you also became empty nesters. So you're probably pretty prepared. What kind of advice do you have?
So we're not exactly empty nesters, but Joanna's the youngest of four. So we've experienced, I think, 4 different colleges, 4 very different experiences, which I think leads us to appreciate JU all the more, the connectedness that we feel to the campus. I think my biggest advice is that you have to trust your kids. Trust that they're okay, that you have trained them well, that they know what to do, and that they'll come find you if they need you. I personally use the Facebook group a lot for information. I think Terry will say the same thing, feel very connected to Jacksonville, more so than the other 3 universities we've dealt with over the years. I trust Joanna. I know she'll make good decisions, and I know sometimes she's going to screw up, and that's okay, because that's how you learn. And she needs to enjoy her independence.
Yeah, I would just also add that the communication from JU has been very helpful through the transition. I think it's the right blend. As Mary Jo said, we've had several different experiences with other colleges, and I just feel like we're we're more connected to JU. And I think that starts at the top from what we've experienced so far. It's the right blend. It's keeping us informed, but while also respecting Joanna as an adult and her privacy, and trusting her, as Mary Jo said, that she'll make good decisions. It was a crazy year last year, obviously, with the hurricane in the beginning, and then COVID-19. But I think, to sum it up, communication has been the key for us as far as the transition goes all around.
Thank you. And I'm going to stick with you for a little bit. As parents send their children off to school, that they worry about a lot of things. Are they going to make friends? Are they going to attend class? Are they taking care of themselves? Do they know how to do their laundry? Since you both have been through this a couple of times, what advice do you have about your kids as they've gone off and just accepted this new adulthood? What could be the hardest part for parents when they learn about when to step in and when to not?
I think that it feels really complicated. And I think with our oldest, we handled things a lot differently, and we were much more hands-on with her. And I was more stressed, like when she didn't communicate for longer periods of time, and she's not a communicator. Joanna's a bit more of a communicator. No child ever died from pink underwear. It's just not going to happen. You have to give them skills and then trust that they kind of learn and live them out, and they're going to make mistakes along the way. And I think that's just a really important thing to think of as a mom. And so sometimes they're going to call and they're going to go, I don't know what to do. I'm struggling with my roommate, or I don't know, my friends aren't getting along, or I asked this girl to live with me and now I don't want to live with her anymore next year. We dealt with a lot of those things last year. It wasn't mine to fix. It wasn't ours to fix. We did college a long time ago. It was hers to fix. And so we listened and supported her and maybe gave her some ideas or reflected her ideas back to her, but we don't fix things anymore.
Yeah. I'd also add is, again, this is our fourth time through, and we pretty much have two basic rules. Mom and dad don't pay for legal bills or stupidity. So we kind of, we take that with a grain of salt. But I think from as far as stepping in, the hardest part for us has been, or for me particularly, has really been to, and I'll say it in quotes, listening to your child. Listen to what they have to say, understanding that the decisions that they make may be different from how you would have handled it or how I would have handled it. But as Mary Jo said earlier too, it's trusting them. We joke, it's kind of like putting bumpers down a bowling alley. We're going to let the ball kind of wobble back and forth sometimes, but we're also not going to let it go off the rails as well. So it's that trust and balance.
Thank you. That's amazing perspective, and I can see a couple comments saying and great advice. And Nancy, I want to throw it to you for a second. I know you worked a lot on finding that fine line of open communication, letting Emily have independence, but also knowing when you as a parent did need to step in. So can you talk about what you and Emily did to work through that communication and how you came to find out certain areas where you did need to actually be her parent?
Absolutely. For Emily, she did struggle her first semester. And I think from talking to other families, that's not atypical. And the first piece of advice would be to follow what we just heard, which is let them struggle a little bit, let them kind of feel things out. Emily started out on the sailing team. She traveled her first 6 weekends, or she was in regattas, and it was a little bit overwhelming from her. She found herself behind. She was struggling. At one point, she is a communicator, but she wasn't necessarily communicating the right things and some of her stresses. So she was very lucky. I think if you're on an athletic team, if you have an advisor, she had people who recognized that she was struggling. And finally, she came to us and used our help to help identify what resources there were for her on campus. And I'm pleased to say that it is, JU is such a student-centric place. I mean, this is not one of those colleges where they're all about getting their name on the Nobel Prize or something else. This is about getting your students, making sure your students are successful. And so when there was a problem, nobody said, oh, you don't belong here or figure it out. Everybody that we spoke to was there, her advisor, Christy Gover's office, all the way up and down the chain, her professors were able to help structure and saying, hey, maybe you didn't understand how these resources worked, or guess what, this is out there. And we were able to work together to a place where, she changed her major. She ended up taking a break from sailing, and I can see she's thriving. And, you know, they always say that out of a crisis, leadership is developed, which is kind of apropos to this whole COVID thing. But I also saw that out of having to have this struggle, kind of having to, for her to reevaluate, maybe pre-med wasn't her thing, you know, some other kinds of, you know, maybe sailing was, she'd bitten off a little bit too much. She's come out of it feeling so supported. She knows she made the right choice, because I don't know what other universities would have had such deep support for her, and enabled her to find her place. And so I have to say, she's so happy. She's involved in different activities than she thought she would be at the start. But, you know, I'm forever grateful to knowing that she's in a place where she is supported and allowed to make mistakes, but, you know, no, it's not a free fall. Someone's there to catch you when you need it. So, you know, that was a great thing for us.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And I think everyone would agree that communication is really key during the first year, but you have to find an art to it. You know, you're sending your students off and they might become super busy or super involved. Or some students might remain with what their family's normal communications like. I want to throw it to Lisa. Lisa, I know you and Sammy were really, really close and you kept in touch. Can you talk about how you kept in touch, and did at any point, did it slow, and how you kind of handled that as a parent?
Yeah, sure. So thank you, Marianne. So when she first got to JU, I mean, I will say she probably over communicated because she was so excited to share her experience with me. So I was getting Snapchats of probably things I shouldn't have gotten Snapchats of, and we FaceTimed multiple times a day, but it was really out of her wanting to just like tell me she was okay and show me how much she loved being where she is. I remember after about a couple of weeks, to your point, it totally trailed off, and I was like, you know, is something wrong? Is she not talking to me? And I just had to breathe. And my husband looked at me and said, she's okay. Like she knows that, you know, she's okay. She's settled into her rhythm. And then we'd Snapchat once a day. We'd FaceTime, you know, probably 4 times a week. We are very close, but I had to trust the fact that she was okay. And if I didn't hear from her like every single hour, that nothing was wrong or she wasn't dead or, you know, whatever. So as a parent who's 1,100 miles away, but yeah, so you figure it out and you get a rhythm, and just, you need to trust. I think that you said this, you know, that they're okay.
Mary Jo and Terry, you kind of alluded in our prep that it was almost the opposite for you. You dropped off Joanna, and communication was really slow in the beginning. So what was that experience like, and how did you kind of get everybody back into a routine?
It was tough because, you know, she and I drove to school every day together. I was a counselor in her high school. So I drove to school with her every day for 4 years. And so I was used to really hands-on and hearing every little detail. In the first couple of weeks, I felt like I didn't hear from her enough. We didn't hear from her enough. She would text, or once, you know, every couple of days. She would call maybe once a week, and we wanted more. And so, but I also we had been through it, and we knew, you know, some of our kids were really good about communicating and others weren't. And what we found was, for her, she was just so busy. And every time, and even when we were on the phone with her, she'd be like, oh, hey, John, hey, oh, hey, how'd you do on that math test? The whole time I felt like she was distracted. And that's a little Joanna. That's, you know, she's definitely all over the place. And so finally, once she settled, we started to see it a change, probably after she came home for the hurricane, went back. And once that happened, she started to settle in a little bit better. And she probably texted us every day, most days, and then called on the weekends, and we'd at least hear from her.
Yeah, you think by the 4th kid, you drop them off and you'd be good to go. She cried the whole 10.5 hours.
No,
it wasn't, it wasn't,
maybe.
But it's still emotional. And it's tough. But as Mary Jo said, Joanna, it's her personality. Joanna is very independent, and she typically makes good decisions. So we kept encouraging her when we did hear from her. And you know, the only thing I would add to that is, you know, when you talk to him, when we talk to Joanna, you know, you say, oh, how's your day going? Don't just take, oh, it's fine, or, oh, it's okay, as the answer. Probe a little bit deeper. Ask her about the details, or ask him about the details. You know, what did you do today? Who did you meet? Did you talk to people? Did you have classes? What were they like? Did you like your professors? Did you not like your professors?
Are you making friends?
Yeah. How's the weather? You know,
Yeah,
just go a little bit deeper, and don't just accept the the one word balance. And the word I'm looking for is balance. It's I say, when Mary Jo said after Parents Weekend when we were there, I would say really by Thanksgiving, I feel like Joanna hit her stride. She never really got homesick, but by Thanksgiving she was a Floridian. She was definitely left Maryland behind and is full engaged in Florida by now.
Well, I know our office loves seeing all of your students because we've grown to know your family so closely. So I can definitely attest to the fact that Joanna is always smiling and waving to a bunch of people.
Oh, yeah.
Ashley, similar to Jacob, I mean, he's super independent. He's also really involved on campus. And I know you and Kent really let him lead with the decisions he was going to make about communications. Was there any point where that just didn't work and you had to completely redirect how y'all were communicating?
For the most part, yeah, absolutely. When he first started there, he kept coming home on the weekends, and we were like, "Why are you home?" Get engaged on campus, and then he decided he was going to run with that. So he's extremely social. His, Marianne, your dad, he absolutely loves. So he, I think, was in his Captain Tui's office every day because he did start off in aviation, and then. Sadly had to change some of that due to some medical issues. So that was a devastating thing for him on a whole nother level, which, the whole counseling side of things on campus kicked in for him last year for that. But yeah, he got heavily involved in, communicating, he never said no to anybody, and he dealt with some of the, overcommitting kind of thing. And so he was communicating to everybody that he wanted to be involved. And then he was like, shoot, what do? I'm supposed to be at a volleyball game helping with the team. And I also told, Captain Tui that, this was gonna, I could do this for him. And so learning how to kind of share your excitement that you want to be involved, but at the same time, really look at what was realistic for him to do as far as just telling everybody yes all the time. He was heavily, like I said, heavily involved on campus with admission. I think he was a student ambassador. He was part of the plaque group. He was in aviation. I mean, he was rushing, all that stuff. And so, it was great, but it really taught him to kind of pull the reins back and say, okay, I really what's my major focus? And of course, as parents, we're like, you're there for great, for schoolwork. The social side comes along, but, we had to get him to pivot on that and, be able to redirect him in the sense that your purpose there for 4 years is to get an education and everything else will fall into place, where he was a little bit reversed on that in the beginning of, hey, this is a ton of fun. And it was all great, but at the same time, he got into a little bit of a pickle. And so, yeah, but he's doing great now. So very proud of where he's at today.
Yeah, I mean, I think communication is key. It also allows, as parents, you have to ask, like the Puglisi said, ask what they're getting involved in so that you're not always hearing about the milestones after they happen. And maybe you can say, are you sure you can handle this? And help with that scheduling along the way.
Yeah, we really encouraged him to reach out to us prior to him making something, because a few times he had not done that without kind of running it by us. I mean, everybody has said, you got to let your child do their thing and figure it out on their own, and they've got to learn, the lesson. Sometimes it's the hard way, but there are, times where you're like, okay, just talk through that. Like, what do you think it should look like? And, having be parent of 3 kids, and 2 of them, our older 2 have been at larger universities as well. And just trying to, do a little bit of guidance. You put the bumpers up in the alley and in the bowling alley, and you're like, okay, I don't want you to fall, but occasionally you're gonna, that's what's gonna happen. And it's good for them occasionally. That's for sure. So they're gonna land on their feet, and that you always love them regardless, but
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think there's so much that students can get involved on campus. And I want to have people, take the opportunity to tell everybody, Nancy, I know, like you mentioned, when Emily came to campus, she was already on the sailing team, but from what I understand, her other passions kind of shaped her next involvement. Do you want to talk a little bit about what Emily got involved in when she came to campus?
Absolutely. It's funny. The first surprise for us is that Emily went to JU, because we live in Jacksonville, and she actually went, Lisa, another thing that Lisa and I have in common is that Emily went to high school. She finished high school up in New Hampshire. And so when the sailing coach at JU, who she'd known for several years, said, "Hey, Jacksonville's looking pretty good," she realized, wow, you know what? It really is. After a winter in New Hampshire, and she came down and she realized how beautiful JU was, and what, the sailing team is nationally ranked. And it was a great group of people to start with. It's my husband and I had been involved in the sailing team for years before she even considered JU, and we certainly didn't push her that direction, but we were thrilled that she went there. And she did. She immersed herself in the sailing team, and she still got a lot of friends on the sailing team. But the adjustment for her, as I mentioned, was a little tough, and it was the balance for her wasn't working. So she thought she would take a break, and while she was on the break, she rushed and she joined a sorority, and it's given her some amazing leadership opportunities. It's also really created for her a little family on campus, and some friendships, and and some ways to get involved in all sorts of different activities. And then, I am a lawyer, and I always said, you can do anything you want. There are 2 stipulations. It has to have health insurance, and please don't be a lawyer. And so she is immediately gravitating to wanting to be a lawyer, of course. And she discovered through her criminal justice classes just this love for all of, just became fascinated by the criminal procedure, and had the opportunity to help kind of resuscitate the mock trial team. And talk about seeing your kid blossom. That has been the most amazing experience. Through that, she got to be Dean Corrigan, who is running the academic dean. She was helping to run the program, and she got to connect with him. She met a whole student. She got to her confidence, her voice, her critical thinking. All those things have been enhanced through that. And aside, she had a internship lined up this summer, which unfortunately got canceled kind of towards the end, and she was disappointed. She reached out to the new the lawyer in town who's going to be running the mock trial team this year, and she's been able to find her own internship through that, and it's just paid dividends. So I think that the sky's the limit. Don't the major that your student thinks they're going to have and the activities they think they're going to participate in may change dramatically, and it's really the best thing that could ever happen, because they're finding these passions and things that they might not have had in high school. So let them run with it.
Awesome. Yeah. And talking about like kind of that team aspect, Terry and Mary Jo, I know that when Joanna started at JU, she wasn't actually a student athlete. So can you talk about how she kind of got roped into rowing?
There was we're muted. Are we unmuted? Good. There was an event locally that we met some other families, and we were able to, interact with some people locally. And Joanna always has been super involved everywhere she goes. Everything she does, she's always spends lots and lots of time involved. And she was worried. Nursing's a big major. She had picked psych as a minor. She knew she had a heavy course load. And so she was going to start the year. In high school, she was a golfer. And so she was looking at the golf team, but she's like, I'm not convinced I can play college level golf. And so at this event, a girl came up to her and said, you should join the crew team. You'd be a great the rowing team. You'd be a great coxswain. She's little. She's like 5 feet tall. They were like, you would be wonderful. And Joanna was like, I don't think so. That girl was so insistent. She went to her room in a pouring down rainstorm and said, Joanna, come on, you're coming to the meeting with us. And Joanna went. And I think it was raining so hard that any walk-on who came, I think automatically got a spot. So,
yeah, she was, Joanna she has been involved, but she was a little nervous going in, transitioning from high school to college and living away. Didn't know, she was like, I kind of just want to ease in my first semester, and I don't know what I want to do. And it's, she was nervous, and like Mary just said, Mary Grace is her friend, and she's been great. We've got to know her parents now. They live close to us. So, we developed that relationship. And quite honestly, I really do think, again, from experiencing a couple different, colleges, that's one of the things that sets JU apart. It is, it is very inclusive, very friendly, family oriented. People will pull you along if you are a little bit shy maybe, or, not Joanna's case, but, if you're a little bit more reserved. I'm an introvert, so I get pulled along to a lot of things. But I feel like Joanna really has done a great job there. She's always been a part of a team her entire life. She's been playing sports her entire life. She's never going to be, you know, a superstar athlete, but she is she's obviously committed to it, and the structure is good for her. I think the structure is good for most people. She was a little worried, you know, taking on a heavy course load, and you know, can I handle both? Can I do this? And it's really all about time management and budgeting time management, because you know, if she wasn't doing and being involved in all these things, there's a lot of idle time. And then that goes back to my 2 rules. We're not going to pay for a legal bill, and we're not going to pay to get you out of jail. So it's
She hasn't done either.
yeah, she hasn't done either.
By the way.
Neither is her. Well, okay,
Well, that's
we'll
not
hold that for a
entirely
different
true.
conversation. But no, it's just been a great experience for her, and we you know, we feel blessed by the opportunity she's been given and taken advantage of so far.
That's awesome. We love that sentiment that you keep referring. But I think it's important that parents do know that like these big time struggles will happen. I mean, your students are having these new passions, new friends, busy lifestyle, or maybe a hurricane happens, and you know, how are parents going to navigate these struggles? And kind of what sort of reassurances from JU have you received along the way that everything's going to be okay? Lisa, I know that Sammy had a bumpy start academically. Did you step in to help her? What kind of resources did you tap in for that?
Yeah, so she'll probably be mortified that I'm even going to go there with all the parents on the phone, but she did. So our first who went to college, he was a college athlete. And so if he missed a class, I never heard about it because his football coach heard about it. So there are 2 things that are not our friends and our family: too much time on your hands and mourning. I was pretty sure pretty quickly in that she was missing quite a few classes. And to your point, Marianne, my inclination was to jump in, to be like, yo, like I need proof of when you're up, when you're at class. Like that is just, I am a type A plus personality. And I didn't have to deal with that with my first kid because again, he had a built-in kind of automatic report in network. And again, my husband, who was the voice of reason, he said, you gotta let her if she's gonna fail, she's gonna fail, and she's gotta do it fast. So to your point, she missed a lot of classes. She kept telling me everything was fine. She talked an amazing game because that is the kid that she is for me. And when she got her grades, which we knew, where I was like, I know you have to have your grades, she finally had to come to us and say, I failed a class. And this is why. And I got a D, by the way, in pottery. So if any of your kids take pottery, it is not an easy class. Let me just tell you that. And it's 4 credits in the weighting. But she learned a really valuable lesson early on. And she got the letter from JU that said, you're now in academic probation. And it was probably the best thing that we could have done for her versus propping her up. And she turned it completely around, to your point, Marianne, and has been pretty much an A/B student since we made it through that first semester and year.
That's wonderful to hear. And I think it'll be definitely reassuring for other parents to know that the students do, they really get through it and they come out successful on the other end, and it's part of development. It truly is. And I know we talk a lot about creating this network for yourself on campus, and Mary Jo and Terry, you had a specific example that you shared about how you reached out to someone that you met so early on in the process of coming to JU, was actually the admissions counselor, and how she was able to help you through like a tough time where you were really worried about Joanna. Can you tell parents kind of what the behind the scenes that administrative and staff do here at JU to kind of really give you reassurances as a parent if something is going on?
So I can, and I think I want to start by saying that JU is it's like no other place we've ever seen. Julia Weiser came to campus, and I was heading the director of I was the supervisor and director of admissions, and Joanna was in class, and I was talking to Julia, and quite honestly just didn't have time to spend with her. So I was like, oh, call Joanna down, she'll talk to anybody. And so Julia encouraged her to apply, and she did. And we came to visit on a whim because she was not going there. She wanted big school experience, big. And we got to the admissions office, and very unexpectedly, people started coming out and hugging her Like Julia came out and hugged her. People were so enthusiastic. We were there and we were shocked because at other schools, you don't experience that. If you're just a number, go sit in that line, whatever, you're going to move on. And in big schools, that's the way it was. And so then we were so impressed by JU just overall. And then she ended up there a little bit surprised to all of us. Right before COVID hit and they came home, Joanna was on her first crew, the first rowing trip, and they were supposed to be going to row, and there was a lot of uncertainty. And she called me and she was crying, which is very, very unusual. And she said, "Mom, I've been crying for over a week. I can't stop crying. I'm so upset and I don't know why." And she was clearly just out of sorts. And it scared me a little bit. And she said, "When I come home, I think maybe I need to talk to somebody. I just don't know what to do." And it worried me. And so because she was traveling and I couldn't really get to her, we were meeting her at that trip, except for everything was coming undone right then. That was when she ended up coming home that Sunday. This was Friday. I didn't know what to do. So I called and reached out to Julia and I said, "Please help. I don't know what to do. I know you coach the sailing team. Do you have any or work with the sailing team sometimes? Do you have any connection to the rowing coaches?" And she reached out and I said, "And please don't tell Joanna I told anybody. I just need to know she's okay." And she reached out to the rowing coach and the rowing coach checked on her and made sure I got feedback that she was okay. I didn't need to know the details. I just needed somebody to eyeball her, like boots on the ground. And I can't even tell you how appreciative we were that we knew our girl was okay. And part of it was just that anxiety of not knowing what was coming with COVID. And I think that's sort of what was creating the problem, but we couldn't see that from where we were.
Yeah. And I know we get calls too, even in the family engagement office. And I think that's one of the tools that we can provide to parents is when they don't know who to call. There's a lot of contact information on the webpage and sometimes those are the best people, but if you have a big issue going on, you just don't know where to start, like that is a great way to utilize our office as well with Lauren and I. We're really happy to be kind of that first person that can refer you out. I want to throw it to Nancy to talk about hurricanes really quickly. I know that Emily has been here for quite a few of them. And she also always has this really good sentiment that she just tells parents about how their students don't come to JU to be a name on the roster. And I would love for you to elaborate on that a little bit more, Nancy.
Yeah, I think this kind of is a great segue from, what we were just talking about is that when you're at JU, you are not anonymous at JU, as we always say. Even if you want to be, you can't be. This is not Ohio State. This is not, a behemoth of a school. And, when Emily walks around campus, when I walk around campus, everyone's saying hi, you recognize people when you're struggling, when you're happy, when, I think there was that fear of so many of students and their first, who will I go to dinner with? Will anybody get to know me? I think you can rest assured that, in 5 minutes, you're going to have made connections and you're going to see those people all the time. It's not like you're walking around a city and you're not, everybody that you see is part of the community and it really is a community. And I think that the fact that you're not anonymous goes all the way from the very top to, Tim Cost, who you may see driving a golf cart, helping people get to their dorms, to, anybody at the school, to every student. And that's so reassuring because there's so many connections there. And it's really made me, it's such a positive to me about JU. And I think that comes back to the question about hurricanes, because we live in Florida. Hurricane season seems to be all the time. It's actually, I think it's really just June to November, but primarily, August and September. And you do occasionally get a hurricane or a threat of a hurricane. And I needed to tell you, if there is something that's going to make you love JU, it is the response to hurricanes. Because first of all, when we've had a couple scares or storms, our response is, please have our daughters stay at JU. It's the safest place in all of Jacksonville. It's high up. They take all the kids. They're having this great bonding experience. They put them in, make sure everybody's in the dorms that are high up. They had food service and everything else. And it was, they could go through it as together. And if you could see Christy Gover and the whole team in action, they were staying on campus, providing updates, making, as much, I hate to use the word fun because it's a hurricane and it can be serious, but really coming together and bonding. And I think the kids who went through that really connected. And I feel like the safety of the students, and this also applies to the current COVID situation. I've been party to enough conversations over the last few months to know that, you know, despite everything else that they're talking about, it's the safety of the students, both hurricanes, COVID, but also just in general, whether it's a mental health issue, whether it's an academic issue, whether it's whatever it is, that comes first. And, you know, hopefully we won't, because we've already had plagues, locusts, whatever. Hopefully we won't also have any hurricanes this year, but I think you can rest assured that you can almost check that off your list in terms of, you know, of over worrying about it, because they got you covered on that one. So
yeah, and I think this is a good segue into kind of how a lot of you answered this. What has surprised you the most questions? You know, your students develop a lot in their first year, so I would love for a few of you just to kind of go through and talk about what did you learn about your student? What was the biggest surprise with them coming out of JU in their first year, or what was your biggest surprise as a parent? Ashley, I know you talk a lot about how much interaction Jacob has with, you know, actually kind of mentors on campus. I'd love for our other parents to hear about that. I think that you are muted, Ashley.
Can you hear me now? Anyway, so Jacob and Kent, my husband and I have been very involved with JU prior to any of our kids going there. Well, Jacob really. So we were thrilled when Jacob decided to go, but he had met a few people ahead of the game of going there, and which I think helped in the long run of why he ended up there. But he is very personable. He's very much like his dad. Some say he's like me, but I'll go he's more like his dad. But he, you know, was connected with Diana Donovan, Marianne with you, Lauren. I mean, you name it. He had, I mean, he would say he has a relationship with everybody there, and he's not, you know, we've taught our kids, like, if there's no silly question, the worst answer you'll ever get when you ask a question is no, but never not ask, because you'll never know. And so, but his engagement with just the staff there, the faculty, everybody, down at the security guard, Kevin, I think is his name, but he, like I said before, he's a social butterfly. His goal is to try to meet and greet everybody and have some sort of a bond with them in some small way. And, you know, he talks about, you know, being one of his complaints to us this year with a little bit of pressure because we are so involved on campus was, you know, he's like, I just want to wear my pajamas to the cafeteria, because he doesn't think he can do that because President Koss comes in there and he'll sit down and say, hey, Jacob, and he'll have Chick-fil-A with him. And so, you know, we're like, he's not going to care if you wear your pajama bottoms to the thing. He's like, well, I feel like I should have a polo on, because Tim's always in a suit and tie. I've never seen the guy not in a tie and a suit. So, but yeah, he's just, that's part of who he is. He's always been that way. And, you know, and I love that about him. But yeah, he's very engaged with pretty much everybody. You'll find him in and out of people's offices, just checking in and saying, hi, how's your day going? That sort of thing. So, you know, he was on the admissions team for a while, starting to give tours and flying around on a golf cart. So, which he loves too. So.
I always like when Jacob comes and visits us.
Yeah.
So we appreciate it. Encourage all of your students to get to know us as well, because it's easy for us to kind of create connections that way too. I am going to jump forward just because you did talk about you and Kent's involvement. And I'd love for a couple of the other panelists to talk about the very special ways that they've gotten involved at JU. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the call, everyone on the panel tonight is a member of President's Parents Council, and they're fantastic volunteers for our campus and for other parents. And we're just so appreciative of all of our parent volunteers, but specifically this special group. And Lisa, you know, you wrote something in our prep that just really resonated with us. And you said that you fundamentally believe in the mission and vision of JU leadership, and you want to support it. Do you mind just talking a little bit about the different ways you've decided to support JU in all sort of ways, whether that's on Facebook or whether that's in an actual advisory board role?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Marianne. So again, like many other parents on here tonight, we've had the privilege of engaging with, with different universities through, Samantha's our third kid in college, with 2 right now. I've been an academic in my previous life. And I think from the first time my husband and I stepped foot on campus, we just believed in President Cost and the mission and what he was trying to do at the university. So we jumped in, you know, with my first son, again, he was a college athlete. So we had that parent group of football parents to be engaged with, and we wanted a similar group of parents. So we joined the Parents Council, which we love. And I think in different ways, our kids have engaged without even knowing that each one of us, that they have parents on the council, which has been nice. I also joined, I was very honored to be asked to join the Brooks Rehabilitation Science Center Scientific Advisory Board. So I now serve in a role as well on the advisory board with Brooks. And that's, you know, again, strongly believe in where kind of that is going. And then the Facebook page. I mean, so I have to tell you, like, I'm not a huge Facebook person, which Lauren would say, really? I think I have 8 friends, if you actually look at my list, but it was a way for me to kind of see what the conversation was and the tenant and what some of the issues were. And hopefully there were some parents on this call that, you know, we've tried to jump in and be like, hey, like, this was our experience, you know. There was a mom recently who wasn't sure how moving would work. And very honestly was like, we have a house, your daughter's welcome to come stay there. You know, just supporting. The other thing is, I think we also have found like our New England kind of posse. I'll just say that. So you'll very quickly see kind of who's from where. And we really try to support each other just geographically to say, like, we get it. We're from far away. Your kids will be okay. But very sincerely mean, if we can help, we will help. I mean, we wouldn't be engaged otherwise. So, you know, we enjoy all aspects and just believe in the university probably stronger than, you know, anywhere else our other kids have gone.
Well, thank you, Lisa. And again, we appreciate everything that you do in every capacity that you do it for us. Nancy, as co-chair of PPC, I would love for you just to kind of talk to parents on the call if they want to get involved with PPC, how they can do that real quickly before we go into final thoughts and then our chat questions.
Sure. I mean, the President's Parents Council has been, as Lisa said, a fabulous way to engage. I think one of the bad things you need to balance when your student is in college is you don't want to smother them, but you still want to be able to be engaged. You still want to be able to help the mission of the college, especially if you really believe in it. And what the President's Parents Council has done for us is has enabled us to be a sounding board, to help frame the conversation, to you know, help with, you know, some of the volunteer opportunities, help with the Facebook page. You know, there is a financial commitment involved with joining the President's Parents Council. For us, that was something that was such a great way to show our investment in Emily, our investment in the city of Jacksonville, and our investment in JU. And you know, I think there are a lot of ways to get involved, especially if you've got someone on a team, if you have somebody. But I would suggest you take a look at that and look at other opportunities, because you know you can't be the room mom anymore, or the room parent, but you can still you really can still make a difference. And you know, when I go on campus, I tell my daughter, I say, I'm going to be on campus. You do not need to seed me. And she always says, well, wait a minute, you're not going to buy me Starbucks? So I do. But even if you're doing it virtually or on Zoom, I think your students appreciate and they feel validated when you're validating their experience by volunteering.
Thanks, Nancy. And like I mentioned, we did prep for this call just so that we could gather all of our thoughts. And I asked everybody what was kind of the final thought they would want to leave with you as incoming families. And everything everybody had to say was so excellent that I just want to have each of our panelists run through and say that to the families that are on the call tonight. And Nancy, since you're unmuted, why don't you just go ahead and go first?
Sure. I think what I have been trying to emphasize is that you and your student will have great support at JU, that it's easy to get involved, also to assume leadership positions that are going to help position them for the future, and to get to know, you know, professors, staff, President Cost. You know, I went to college for 4 years. I'm not even sure I set eyes on the president of my college. And, you know, Tim Cost is everywhere. And I always describe him as someone, there are dreamers and there are visionaries, and a dreamer dreams it and a visionary makes it come true. And what I see in President Cost is someone who is so dedicated that when he puts something together, he you know, he can rally the troops, and he really is moving JU forward every day. And your students, he loves meeting students. He loves the mission of JU. And he remembers he was a student at JU. He remembers that it is about the students. And he's very receptive to the 21st century. I mean, look at where we are today. You never would have thought that a year ago. And there's going to be different job demands, different skill sets that our students are going to need. And someplace like JU and its leadership are going to be able to react to that and have our students ready to go when they come out to, you know, they're going to be so resilient. They'll be able to respond to whatever comes their way.
Thanks, Nancy. Ashley?
There we go. So yes, I would encourage all parents to get as involved in as you can on campus. There's many things that we do throughout the year. You know, we certainly have encouraged Jacob to stay involved and engaged at all levels, you know, whether it's the Greek life, it's the athletic, you know, attending the games, supporting other athletes, you know, that sort of thing. So he's done a pretty good job doing all of that. And, you know, just it's been like having two other kids in larger universities, like several of you have said. The personal connection and relationship that the leadership team and everybody there on staff has with the students, there's a genuineness that they have for every student there. They want to know, they want to help, they're there to help. They're creating great leaders throughout our community, throughout the, you know, US, really throughout the world. But they have to reach out for it, and it's there for their taking. And you know, I would say for Jacob specifically, that the leadership roles that he has that I wouldn't have seen him have unless it had to do with, you know, somebody on campus that just said, hey Jake, I think you'd be great at this, and he's like, oh, okay. So he really took every I don't want to say challenge, but he's taken every opportunity that came his way and ran with it. And, you know, we're firm believers, like, you never know until you try. And so he's done a phenomenal job with that, as well as JU doing an amazing job reaching out as well. And so they're there for your student at any time, any place, and whatever the need is, they're going to do whatever they can to arise to help them succeed at any capacity. So I can't say enough about JU as far as the personal relationship they have with students. And the students need to know that that's there for their taking. So.
Thanks, Ashley. Lisa?
Yeah, so again, I mean, this is our third college with a kid, and I can just say JU is a super special place. I mean, my husband would tell you that I can take woo woo to want really quickly. It is not perfect. No school that any of our kid has gone to is perfect at this point, but I will tell you it's about as close as we've gotten. And I think to Ashley's point, I think Nancy said this, there's a safety net among the faculty and the administration and the parents themselves that we have not seen at any other school where our kids go. So in the moments of imperfection and frustration, and when your kids are having tough moments, I guess my advice is trust the process and trust the people and trust your students. Our daughter also has always felt from the moment she walked on the campus safe, and I mean that physically and emotionally, academically. So encourage your kids to have a voice, to speak up, to challenge the status quo. But at the end of the day, they can have a voice at JU and it will be heard.
Thanks, Lisa. And then Mary Jo and Terry.
I think what we want you to hear, I think what we want, are we muted? Are we unmuted? Are we here now? Can you hear us? I think what we wanted to say and kind of our thoughts on last thoughts is they're ready and you're ready. And now I'll get weepy because I do. And it's going to be really hard and you're going to cry a little bit and it's okay. Trust, and I agree, trust the process, trust the people that you have, that you've entrusted your kids to. I think JU does a great job of taking care of our little people and loving them when we can't, when we're far away. And the other thing is reach out for help if you need it. As a mom, that Facebook group has been really, I watch it, and some days it's a little sassy and some days it's not, it's less, but it's really a great resource. If you need something or if you need someone, I'm telling you right now, you can certainly friend request me, reach out to me. I'm pretty available to people. But don't hesitate to say, help, I don't know what to do and I don't know who to ask.
Yeah, I would agree with everybody. It's a special place, and we love it. And you know, one of the benefits for us, again, living in Maryland, is we get to go visit. So we've we'll be down in October.
We hope, yeah.
We hope, and we look forward to seeing everybody. But as everybody said, get involved. Have your students get involved. Trust them, and don't overreach, but know that it's a great place to be involved with it because it is special. Mm-hmm. So, and it is very student led, right? That's the other thing I heard, and we've experienced just from the top down. It's the administration, the fact that they listen to the students, and will help to make things better. I agree with Nancy. I think President Costa is a visionary, and I really like everything that I've heard. From him and just the way he thinks through things and again communicates out to parents. So I'll leave it there.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you a lot for all of those sentiments, and I think they'll really resonate with our incoming families. Lauren's going to unmute all of our panelists right now. We're going to move through a couple questions that we either received on Facebook or in the chat this evening. So panelists, feel free to just jump in and answer these. I think one of the biggest things that incoming families want to know about is if you can touch on, does your student have a car? Do you think it's necessary? And then what's your best move-in packing advice? Of course, I'm just going to make this plug, but especially moving into everyone coming back to campus in the current climate, but make sure you're packing a lot of things that you can help manage your own health with, so a thermometer. So I'm just gonna throw that plug in there. But if each panelist wants to go around, if you have something to say, but car or no car, maybe why your family made that decision, and then best move-in packing advice.
Yeah. Joanna started without a car and had one, after Thanksgiving, I think, drove it back down.
No, Christmas.
So we went back and forth, and again, we trust her, she's responsible. So definite car. And then as far as move in, move out and other things, just a plug for if you haven't heard of them, Dorm Pack Pros.
They don't pay us anything, I swear.
They're the best thing since sliced bread. Trust me.
And again, we paid our older daughter. Because there are so many of them that come back in and out of the house every year. 3 college students. Our older daughter's paying $116 a month for 6 months for a storage space, and all she does, and she carries it herself. So they're so much easier than that. So that's a huge piece of advice. Also, pack light. You don't need a ball gown. You don't need your tops. You just pack light, because she didn't use half of what she took, and she brought a lot of things back home because she hadn't used it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. That my move-in advice is you probably don't need everything that you read these. You read these blogs and everything, and you see, and I always laugh, how everybody takes that cute photo of their kid's dorm room that first day with the matching pillows and things. I challenge you to take one 6 weeks later and see what it looks like, because honestly, it's not, I always say it's not about the wedding, it's about the marriage. It's not about, if your curtains match, it's about if it's workable for you. And you live in Florida, you don't need a down jacket for first semester. So leave it at home. And for a car, my daughter's had a car the whole time. We're local. I think it's been really helpful for her to get to know the city even better, and to, we encourage her when she wants it. We always say, if there's anyone who needs a home cooked meal, if somebody's feeling sad, that, bring them over to our house. We'll sit down. It might only be spaghetti, but tie your friends in. Let's, give them, everybody's welcome.
Yeah, I would say that Jacob definitely had his car. He was, had jobs here and there. He was coaching volleyball at a local club. So he was on and off campus. He would bring friends home to our house, like Nancy mentioned. I loved having kids. Right now I've got 6 extra kids that have been here for 2.5 weeks. So I'm looking forward to the day I get my house back, but I love having him here. But yeah, he's definitely had his car. As far as move in for him, he literally loads up some laundry baskets of clothes and bedding, and that's it. And I can honestly say I haven't moved him in the last 2 years. He's done it all by himself. So, which is weird because my other 2, I was all hands-on with that, but that's just him. So
We could, so Samantha car. So, but again, I mean, her car is a function of that we live in the middle of nowhere. And so it's all she knows. So it was a safety net for her. I'll just tell the parents who have anxiety over cars, she goes to the same 3 places. She goes to Publix, to CVS, and to Target. And that's what you'll find. Never once has she driven downtown Jacksonville in her car. She's either used the campus transportation or they Uber. So definitely car. And then move in, I think because she's a product of like the only girl with 3 brothers, she literally packed a laundry basket of her clothes when we drove down in her very New England Subaru. And then we basically did the $600 Target run once we got there. Somebody on the question asked, we've never done the bedding pack. It doesn't mean that it's not something you should do, but we literally went to Target, and once we got there and she and her roommate, that's the other piece I would say is if they have a roommate, she and her roommate literally on campus divvied up what they were going to go buy. We went and bought our list. Stephanie went and bought her list. And then that's what we did. We were lucky enough that Stephanie's from Florida. So her parents actually took our daughter's stuff home with her and stored it. And she packed up her same laundry basket and drove back to New Hampshire. So go with what you need. And I would say figure it out when you get there. But yes, don't forget a thermometer. You should definitely have one of those this year.
Thanks, everyone. We've got a couple questions about support systems at JU for your students. So whether that's the disability office or clinical mental health counseling, or maybe your student has a dietary restriction, I would love for our panel to jump in and maybe talk about some of those various resources you were able to turn to kind of navigate any kind of potential things that might arise for your students that are special.
So I would love to jump in on this. So
Yeah.
after our daughter's first semester struggles, and Marion and Lauren know this story well, what we realized very quickly was that our daughter had been on an IEP and then a 504 in high school, and she was pretty determined to not be on one in college. I wish I'd asked more questions about the Office of Disability at the outset, and realizing that there's no shame in it. And she really needed the support of that office, and she needed to get some accommodations put in place so that she could be successful moving forward. So the Office of Disability for us in Olga Flores has been really our saving grace on that campus. So if you have a student in that space, feel free to reach out to me on Facebook, but I would get in touch with the Office of Disabilities before your student even arrives on campus.
I'll jump in on the the counseling side of things. Jacob did reach out to the counseling services on campus. I believe it was probably January, February of this year, which we didn't realize that he had, but he was struggling a little bit over the holidays, and and we could tell something was up, but we didn't know what. And he said, and so we encouraged him to reach out on campus to find out if he could talk to somebody else if he didn't want to share with us. So since then, I'm happy to say he has shared with us, but I was glad that they were there for him because he, whatever he was working through at the time, certainly wanted a neutral sounding board that you necessarily don't always get from mom and dad for sure. So he did, I think he was in and out of there a few times, just, whatever, but they were very accommodating to him on his schedule. Just when he needed it, they were there. So that was great to hear. And then there was follow-ups with him on that, little hiccup that he had gotten into. So anyway, so it was, definitely they're there for them. They're there for the students, and they want, like I said, want them to be successful. So great experience for his part.
I completely echo that. Your students are so fortunate that the new Student Health Center is going to be opening this year, and it's going to consolidate some of the services that are available. And students, I think that there's not a family on campus whose student doesn't struggle in some ways that first semester. And for them to realize that that's normal, and to be able to put the resources in, know where to go, know who to talk to. It may be just turning your laundry pink, but it might be more serious. It could be that your roommate's having concerns, or you are, and that's a big focus of JU, and having that health center. And also, Olga and her team, my daughter took it, same thing. She finally took advantage of a couple of accommodations, and it made all the difference in the world. And it just comes back again to help your students' health being the priority for everybody.
Anybody else? Okay. Anybody want to touch on, maybe you have a shy student that's coming to JU and the different ways that they can kind of jump in, or maybe any advice for parents to kind of push them towards getting a little bit more involved? Anybody want to jump in on that question?
I'm okay. Yeah, you know, our girl's not shy, but I think what I'd like to convey, and when I was a high school counselor, what I used to say to parents is, don't let them come home. Leave them on campus until Columbus Day. Used to be fall break, but fall break's not happening this year. But don't let them come home. Encourage them to stay on campus for the first couple of weeks. That's how they get to know people. That's how they make friends and learn to sort of gel and mesh with their roommates and other people around campus. If they come home those first couple of weekends, it takes a little bit longer for them to find their way, I think. So whatever you can do to encourage them to stay on campus, I do it. That's my sort of
Yep.
2 cents.
I'd like to piggyback off of that, Mary Jo, with Jacob. You know, he's definitely not a shy person by any means, but he also really tries to get people engaged to do things outside the box. So, you know, if he's seeing somebody who's just, you know, his roommate was in his room a lot all the time, and Jacob really tried to engage with him, you know, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, like, hey, let's go get something to eat. Let's go down to the caf. And so eventually, you know, his roommate ended up doing that, but his roommate was extremely shy the first year. And so, you know, having that one, you know, a student or two that is kind of like prying a little bit and saying, hey, let's, and, you know, hopefully more students, I think they do a great job as far as realizing that, and seeing some students who might be, oh, I think I'm just going to go back to my room. Like, oh no, let's go do this, or let's go play volleyball. Let's go, you know, whatever it might be. So I would say overall, I see that a lot on campus when we've been there. Just really people trying to get kids involved and engaged with each other, whatever's happening on campus. So.
Sorry, I was not unmuted. I think we will go ahead and wrap up for tonight. And I just want to say thank you again to all of our panelists. Thank you again to all of our incoming families for being on the call this evening. We're really, really excited to get to know you and your students. Lauren's going to put our contact information in the chat again. And if you want to reach out to any of our panelists tonight, I know that they would be more than willing to connect with you if you have any questions that you want to ask, or maybe there was something that talked about tonight that you didn't want to ask in the chat. I know that they would be willing to spend some time with you. But again, we appreciate everyone being here this evening. If you are not local, or even if you are local and you want to listen in on next week's panel, again, we'll be having a very similar conversation, a little bit different because it will be tailored for families that are not here, because we do understand that being from afar can sometimes add a little bit of extra stress. So thank you again, everyone. We appreciate it, and welcome to the JU family. Good night.